Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. In this one today what we're going to be doing is a beginner crash course on materials inside of Unreal Engine. By the end of this video you'll know how to create your own custom materials just like the ones you see in this video. So we have a really cool brick material, we also have this custom water, we also have a lava / hologram one, and as you can see they actually glow in the dark as well, some of them. We have this brick material where we can change the texture coordinates and make sure it fits to any static mesh that you want, because I know that's a problem for a lot of people. We also have the grass material, which comes by default. We have the gold brush material, and we also have this like uranium cylinder kind of thing, which doesn't look like much, but it actually glows in the dark, which is pretty cool. Along with the glass material and obviously our hologram. It should be really easy to follow along. Like I said, I'm not an expert in materials at all, but I can definitely teach you something new. I've put some hardcore research into this tutorial, so let's get started. Okay, so I am here in the brand new project that we've just created. This is just a completely blank project, and we're just going to search for some static meshes and drag them into the level. Then what we can do is just start creating some materials and applying them to the static meshes. So, okay, so we have our 4 materials, and this will just basically show some of the shadows and kind of like the texture on the material. So if we just double click our little sphere here, we can actually click on the material and it opens up this graph. Now, if we drag it just like this and we don't dock it, we can actually change the materials on the fly. So let's just double click our texture, and as you can see, when we move it around, we can actually change all the values like right in the viewport. Now, all these static meshes have the same material assigned, that's why it is changing for every single one of them. And we can actually change the roughness to make it, well, smoother. Just like this. And it gives it kind of this plasticky material. And if we put it to a value of 1, it becomes like a rough, sort of like matte material. Okay, so I'm just going to dock this and we're going to take a look at this here. Now we can actually change each one of these static meshes in the viewport. So say you have a custom static mesh, you can actually assign it here. And this is really, really helpful for say like you have a weapon, like a pistol or an M4 or something, and you want to test out the material on that. You can actually just assign a custom static mesh and preview it just like this instead of doing it on a basic cube. Okay, so I'm just going to undo. Okay, so I'm just going to undo a couple of the changes we just made. And any of these nodes also, we can actually hold Control and Alt on our keyboard, and it brings up this little tooltip, and it kind of explains what each one of the nodes do, which is really, really helpful, and it actually provides a link to the documentation on the Unreal website as well. That's just in case anybody is struggling at all. Now this, okay, so this is our material domain, and as you can see here, it says surface. Now let's just change this to a red glossy material, and let's open up our material here, and we have a basic material. Now we can create a material instance of this, which is basically a child actor from what I understand of this material. So any changes we make in the material instance won't affect the original material, but everything in the original material will affect the material instance. And as you can see here, I'm just holding Control and Alt on my keyboard, and it is explaining what each of these do. Okay, so here on the material instance, we can actually change the color on the fly, just like this, by selecting the little drop down and just changing the color. And this will change the material instance, and if we just drag this on, there we go. So the other static meshes all have the base material, which is this one, and all the others, well, the other one had the material instance. So we could, in theory, make as many material instances as we want of this base material and just assign it to a load of different static meshes. So we'll just drag this on. Oops, drag the wrong one on. But that's a cool gold material. Here is a stone one. And here is a grass one. So if you do not see these materials that we are seeing right now, you actually need to press Control and Space on your keyboard, which will open the content browser, and then click the settings icon on the right hand side and enable engine content or starter content. So now in the material instance that we saw before, we also have a color and a roughness value that we can change on the fly. So let me just show you here. If we click on the material instance, which is not this one, it is the other one. 1 minute. Here we go. This one here, we can actually see that at the top, it gives us the option to change color and roughness, and that is because we have assigned a value into the roughness, which I'll show you in a second. So we can actually just change it on the fly. So let's just assign this, and then we can click the little checkbox and assign, well, say which, and we can say how much roughness we want in this material. So let's just check this, and we can do it just like that without even going into the material editor. And as you can see, with a really low amount of roughness, we actually have reflections. And then if we change this like back to 1, for example, or like 0.1, it will move up slightly and it'll be less reflective. So let's just reset these values and then let's move on. Right, okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to create some basic materials because we want to create a brick material, some shiny stuff and a couple of other things, but I just want to show you how complex some of these materials are. Now, this here is just a absolute headache to look at. I've tried to explain, I've tried to understand it, I cannot understand it. If you want to understand it, you should definitely check out I think it's Ben's Shader Tutorials or something like that on YouTube. I'll try and leave a link in the description. The guy is an absolute genius when it comes to materials, and this is loosely made on what I've learned from that guy. He is honestly incredible. So yeah, I'll leave a link in the description. But we're going to create some more simplistic stuff. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new material. So we're going to right click on material, and then we'll do m_my first material, just like this. And in here we have a constant 2, 3 and 4, just like this. And we can get these by pressing 1, 2, 3 or 4 on our keyboard, and this just gives us a little bit more flexibility with each like number you go up, if that makes sense. So you're picking between 3 right now. If we click 3 on our keyboard, plug this into base color, and then we can just double click where it is like a black little square, and we can change the color here. So in here we can actually change all the values of the metallic, specular and roughness, for example, depending on how intense you want any of them to be. And if we press 1 on our keyboard, we can actually select a load of these constants and assign them to these individual values, which gives us access in the material instance to change them on the fly later. Hopefully that made sense. Okay, so I've just deleted them nodes, and what we're going to do is get a constant 3 by pressing 3 on the keyboard and clicking, and what we can do here is choose between a value of R, G and B. That's why we do a constant 3, because we have these 3 values here. So as you can see right now, the value is 1, 1 and 0, or we could do 0, 1, 0, gives us green, and then blue would be 0, 0, 1. And then if we want to mix the colours, we can actually change them, and we can also change the saturation, which will just make it closer to like no colour. And it gives us this kind of like pale blue material, just like this. And obviously if you want a true value, you would always go 0, 0 and then 1 for each like RGB, so red, green, and blue. So let's get on to hooking all this up and making it look pretty cool. So we're going to hook this straight into base color, just like this, and it'll give us our green material. And we can actually change the static mesh here if you want to view it in a different static mesh. This is really good for if you have a weapon, for example. You can go and preview custom static mesh. And also, if you're ever confused about anything, you can hold Control plus Alt on your keyboard and it will explain for you. And if you click Learn More, if you saw the little button then, if you click Learn More, it will take you to the documentation on the Unreal Engine website, which is extremely useful, especially with materials, because it's just materials is one thing that I've always struggled with, and that's kind of the reason I wanted to make a video on some basic stuff, because I like to just keep it basic and like working instead of doing advanced and breaking it all the time. Did a new material here, and we're going to rename this M_bricks, because we're going to do this brick material, which is going to have a bit of kind of like shadows to it, I would explain it. So what we're going to be doing is using a normal map to kind of like fake some detail or fake some shadows into it. So let's just drag this cube into the level and we'll get this brick material sorted. So with our brick material, we can press the texture sample, which I believe is T on your keyboard. If not, just search it. I can't remember. I did record this video like 3 months ago, so I'm a little bit iffy on some of the stuff, some of the shortcuts, but in here is where we can actually assign a texture, and press Control Alt on your keyboard and it'll tell you what this area is all about. So it's asking us what material or what texture goes into here, because we've got nothing to look at. So if we go here with it selected, we can actually assign a texture, and the one we're going to be looking for is bricks, and we just need to make sure it's the correct one. So each one of these has either a D, M, N, or D, or whatever next to it, and some of these are standing for different types of the texture, which is like diffuse, normal, displacement, for example. Some of them will be roughness or specular, and it should tell you when you hover over it, like which type of material it is. Right, okay, this is post edit. I'm just going to pause the video for 1 second and show you on screen a little cheat sheet instead of blabbering like an idiot like I've been doing in this tutorial, and actually teach you something. Okay, so let's just pause it and I'll show you. Right, okay, with all that done, what I've done, I've opened up the T brick clay beveled material, and I'm just clicking on the RGB values here, and each one of these has different values. So you can see the R has something, the G has nothing, and then when we select B, it also has something. Look, here we go. Right? So what we can actually do, we can like split these, from my understanding. We can actually split these and use them for different values. So I'm using the R for roughness right now. And let's have a look at adding some more details. So in the, where is it? Ambient occlusion, let's add the B value. And look how cool this is. Like, I just think that is so insane from 3 nodes compared to the other material that we had earlier. Like, look at the reflections, look at the the roughness of the material, and like the depth that it adds. I think it's just insane. Honestly, I really do. But yeah, that's how you do that bit. And I think it looks even more incredible when you actually drag the material onto an object. So let's actually look at this from by the side. You can kind of see like it looks like it has some of the paint missing off the bricks, or like it looks like the bricks have been painted and then some of it is like kind of chipped off, and you can see the reflection in just certain parts of the brick. I think it's really cool. And just to demonstrate this a little bit more, I've just added a light into the scene, which is a reactive light, which gives us some soft shadows. And look at the quality of this just from a couple of nodes. and you can see the reflective glow on the side of the material from the other objects as well. So if we move this green one closer, we get a green and then a orange glow on the right hand side. It's really, really insane what you can do with just like 3 to 4 nodes. But yeah, let's carry on. So this cube isn't without issues, and one of them is that if you rescale this cube, that the tiling on the texture will also scale. So let's just have a look here, where we change this material. And as you can see, the tiling of the material is changing with the material. Now this may or may not be a problem for you, but if you wanted to change the tiling of the texture, we'd add a texture coordinate node, just like I've done in the event graph here. And if we just zoom in, click this little arrow, we can actually change the UV of the tiling. So let's just drag that into the UVs of every single one of these nodes, just all 3 of them, just drag them into UVs, and then we can start adjusting the values. So let's just zoom in a little bit. Okay, so let's change the UV tiling to 5 and click apply. We can actually see that the tiling is changing just like this. Now, we are doing this in the base material, not in a material instance. So whatever we make here, we would have to make a material instance for to change the tiling independently. Now, instead of the texture coordinate node, what we can actually do is just search for MF tiling, which is a material function, and we can do the exact same thing here. And then what we're going to do is create a material instance and match both the UVs for this to make it look like. So basically, what we can do, we can actually scale the cube, and then if we wanted, for example, another cube on top of this, but we wanted the same tiling, then we could adjust it and make it fit properly, so it doesn't look all stretched out and weird. So let's create a material instance of our brick cube, and just rename this MI, and it's going to be obviously material instance. So like I said before, this is just a child of the parent, and we can actually change the independent values on this one without basically messing up the original. So let's just drag this onto, wait 1 second. Drag this on here. Why is it not working? Okay, so we have the MF tile in here, and on the parameters, we can actually adjust these values in the material instance. That is because we added that material function and hooked it up, so we can actually change the values independently and make it match. So if we just click on tiling offset here and change this to 5, just like this, we now have a matching material. Okay, right lads, let's make a glowing material, our little uranium one. So let's create a new material, and then what we're going to do is going to go m_green glow, or whatever you want basically. Okay, so here we are in the event graph, and we're going to create this glowing like uranium material, and you can obviously change this to however you want it to be. But the first thing we need to do is just change the default, where is it, blend mode to, no, not blend mode, it is shading model, my apologies. It is unlit, that's what we need. Wow, that was a struggle. And then we're going to press 3 on our keyboard, get a vector 3, and press OK, change it to green, and now we can add this into the emissive colour. And you're thinking, oh well, it's not really done much, has it? So what exactly do we need to do? Well, we need to enhance this emissive colour input, right? So what we're going to do is drag out, we're going to actually multiply, and I think you can press M on your keyboard and multiply this. So we're going to drag A into here, and then the emissive colour is going to be the output, and the B value is going to be the intensity of the glow in our scene, in our material. So here we go. I've just had a value of 25. As you can see, we have this like white material with the green glow on the outside. And if we change this about, I'm going to change it to like 50. We can apply it, and then we can apply it to our our cube in our map. Now I'm going to go ahead and add this material onto our little cylinder, and look how sick that looks. That is really cool. I can imagine this in being like some like alien environment, or like, I don't know, some kind of like sludge in an alien game. The possibilities are pretty much endless with materials. So speaking of alien environments and materials, let's create a metallic kind of metal material, because you would probably find that in a lot of games, to be fair. So press 3 on the keyboard once again, and this is going to be as simple as it gets. We are going to make this a really, really, really close to black color, like a kind of like a grey color. Change the metallic to a value of, let's just do 1. Now, it is not very shiny, is it? And that is because it's still quite rough. So let's change the roughness down to 0. And now we have this kind of like black, almost looks like a cue ball, but doesn't look very metallic. So let's actually just change some of this stuff around. Going to add a value of 0, 0, 0 here, and then change the red to 1. And now we get a more of a metallic, like, ball sort of thing, like almost looks like a Christmas bauble. Okay, with that done, we can actually just drag this material, this like metal kind of material, onto our ball. I know it doesn't look very metal, actually, thinking about it in post, but like, you can obviously change the colour and it'll just look like silver, or you just drag it to black or white and it'll look like silvery or whatever. That's how you would do that. Now let's move on to our glass material, and how we do this is we make it translucent. So I've just duplicated this original material here, and we're going to change the blend mode to translucent, and as you can see, this is kind of messed up, so we're going to re-add by pressing 3 on our keyboard and connecting that up to base color, just like this, and selecting a color. And I want to make it like I want to make it a little bit noticeable, so I'm actually going to add some color to it. Obviously, glass doesn't really have a color, but you know, I'm probably going to add a tiny bit of blue, so we can actually see it. So let's drag this up to white and add a little bit of a blue tint to it, just like this. Now we need to adjust like how emissive, or like how much we can see through this material. So let's just do it as simple as possible. 0.1 in the opacity will give us a translucent material, which kind of has this like blue shading on it. Okay, so I've just added a Fresnel node, and this is basically used in well, Unreal Engine and Blender, to be fair, and it simulates the way that light reflects off a surface depending on like the viewing angle. It just helps it create a more realistic shader, basically. It basically mimics how surfaces appear more reflective or emissive at like certain angles, if that makes sense. Hopefully. Um, yeah, so basically, what it'll do, it'll make the materials more reflective and emissive at the edges, and less reflective and emissive at the center when viewed like head on. So I ended up going with a value of 5 on the top value, and then 0.1 on the second value, and we're going to add a multiply node to control the intensity of this node. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is add a scalar parameter, and this is going to be the value which is going to go into B. I'm just going to call it glow, add a value of like 25. Now, before I hook this into anywhere, I'm actually going to change the default blend mode to unlit, and as you can see on the corners, it's doing exactly what we were talking about before. And let's just disconnect and hook that up, and then hook this into B, and it is looking a little bit more like glass at the moment. Right, okay, so after messing about for a little bit, I decided to actually just scrap this glow thing and just add a constant 3 in, or a vector 3. So I pressed 3 on my keyboard and just hooked this straight in, and it gives us like this kind of like glassy, cool material, which I really like, but now we don't even have a base colour. Now I would associate like a bluish tint with kind of like windows inside of games. I feel like they all aren't actually truly transparent. So let's do that. So the window's got a little bit of a tint, and then we can actually go and add this to some sort of material and check it out. So what I'm going to do is quickly going to add this kind of like window wall thing, and I'm going to add our brick material to show you how you can combine these materials into like level design. So let's just find our brick material. If we just click here, click the folder icon which has it selected, click on the material and then click the little plus, it'll change it to our brick material. Let's zoom in, and as you can see we have a little brick material. Pretty cool. Then we can add a shape, add a cube, and this is going to be our glass. So let's just position it somewhere like this. We're not going to take too much time with this. Let's move it up like that, scale it a little bit, and let's do this. Just trying to get it into like a general area. That should do. Drag it back a little bit. I'm just going to rotate the entire thing just like this, so it looks kind of like a window. Then we can actually add our glass material, and you can see the preview there. It actually kind of looks like glass. And when we add it, it doesn't. Unless we go from the side, which we can actually see what the was it the refraction node? I can't remember what the name of the node was, but what that node was doing, where we actually view it from an angle, it's Fresnel node. So when we actually view it from an angle, it changes and shows the reflections basically, making it look like glass. And yeah, let's make it two-tone so it's two-sided. Sweet, that's our glass material done. Let's move on to some other stuff. Okay, let's create our new material. I'm going to rename this one M_hologram. I don't even really know if this is a hologram, but it's kind of like what I imagine the surface of the sun to look like. But in this one, it's going to be a little bit different because we're going to add a Fresnel node and we are going to make this kind of like move about. So this is going to have like some movement inside of it. So I've just hooked this up to the base color for now. I'm going to change this to a cube. And as you can see, we have that really cool effect. Next, we need a panner node, just like this. Okay, so I've just realised that this node is completely in the wrong place. This is going to go into emissive, so let's change it to translucent. And do we need to do this? Let me just double check. Oh, we're going to use default lit, and then drag this from base color into the emissive, and yeah, I've just changed it back to unlit. Sweet. Now let's change some of these values. So I'm going to use a value of 0.1 at the moment for the base reflect. And I've just pressed 3 on my keyboard and made a new node here. We're going to add some kind of like yellowy orange type of color. But first we need to multiply this by that color, and then we're going to add that into the emissive, and that gives us this kind of like sunny glow material with the glass refractions that we had on the last material. Now if we add another multiply node, this is what we're going to be doing next. So we need a scalar parameter, and this is going to control the intensity out of B, and we can hook that up to multiply, just like that. Add a value of something like this. Let's try a really, really high value. Okay, yeah, I think I'm going to stick with this for now. Or is it better to... Yeah, let's do that. That looks sick. Now we really do have like the surface of the sun. But we need to add some movement and like a kind of like a glowy, translucent texture to this. Okay, sweet. So let's move on and let's press T on our keyboard to add a texture sample, and we're going to add a new texture, which is going to be a noise texture. Now, this is a little bit experimental on my part, but it looks pretty sick, like the end value. So the end material looks pretty sick. So out of the panner, we need to move this around here. I'm going to add this into the UVs, and then we need to multiply this. So let's just change the speed on the Y value to 0.5, sorry, minus 0.5. And let's duplicate this parameter. I'm going to use this to multiply the RGB by B. Let's change this value to 1. Now we can drag this into opacity and look how sick that looks. It's some like weird hologram, kind of like sunny material, and that's what it does in the emissive. But yeah, let's move it back into a opacity, and that is our material. We can actually change the color and add this to a static mesh now. So I have just dragged in this cone, and once again we're just going to drag our material onto this, and can't really see it too well right now, but once we change the lighting of the level, then we'll be able to see it a little bit more. Firstly, let's actually just change this to light blue and see if we can see it a little bit better. Personally, I can imagine this being in like a Harry Potter game, like the I don't know how you would say it, like the smoke coming off like a cauldron or something. I don't know why I just got that in my head, but yeah, that's our hologram material sorted and done. And the last one we're actually going to do is probably my favorite, which is a water/ocean material. We're going to use a lot of the same nodes that we've already been using, so let's get that done and get out of it. Okay, sweet. So that is me failing at making a material, and I'm gonna actually go and successfully create one now, because the pulse one didn't work for me personally, but we can create this water one, which I know I can do anyway. So let's get this going. What we need is to press 3 on our keyboard, and we're going to get a nice blue color and plug the RGB into base color. And the values are going to be 0.1, 0.4, 0.5. Lovely. Nice little ocean colour for a stylized game. I think this would look quite good. Okay, so I'm now going to add another texture sample node, and we're going to change the texture to this water. We want the normal map, this one here, and it looks like a kind of like a bluey purple colour. That's how you can tell it's a normal, and it should say _n at the end of it. Now we're going to animate this to give it the appearance that we are like, well, the waves are moving. That's basically what we want to do. So how do we do this? We need to add another panner node, the one we use in the last material. We're just going to change the speed values here, just like this. And I'm going to hook that into the UVs of the texture sample and add that into the normal, just like this. Now, can we see anything happening? We can a little bit. We can actually kind of see this normal working. I need to turn real time on. That was the problem I was seeing. And after messing about for a little bit, I ended up changing the shading mode or the blend mode to opaque and changing the roughness to 0. And what we can actually do now is change some of the values to make it a little bit more noticeable, because I feel like it's quite subtle right now. So my recommendation would be just to see where you would want to use this material and kind of mess about with the values and see what fits for you. You can just change them about, and yeah, just find something that fits. I'm just going to add this material on, and then we're going to zoom in and get a good position where we can actually see the light, and look how sick that looks. Like, that is just like the water material that we actually see when we add the actual water plugin on Unreal. So it's pretty cool. Now I've just added a little bit of darkness in the scene, and we can see all the glow materials. We can see the glass, we can see the hologram, the reflective ball, and obviously our brick material. Now this is pretty much it. Like I said, I apologize for kind of like the rough style of this video. I'm not an expert on materials whatsoever, but like I said, I hope I taught you something new. This video has taken ages to make, so I'd appreciate anybody that likes and subscribes. Check out my Patreon for all the project files. All these materials will be on there. I will catch you later. See you in the next one. Peace.